so let's start. I'm going to start on the soft skill side, and then we'll jump back and forth. I'll go through the soft skill, talk a little bit more about the hard skills, and just jot your questions down as we go through it, and I'll be happy to answer them during the Q&A time. So let's start with universal law. There are different opinions and thoughts around universal law. And I know that there's this mystery that has been built around universal law. And a typical example of that would be the movie, for those of you who have seen the movie The Secret. But what I want to do today is demystify it for you. There is no mystery. That's all marketing. It's all behind the scenes type things that should be common knowledge that we should be sharing with everyone and that the world should know about. So in terms of universal law, we go, well, what is a universal law? A universal law is simply something that is applicable to the universe that happens day in and day out. So we know during the daytime the sun is going to go up, and we know at nighttime the moon is going to go up, and they alternate being present in the sky. And that is a universal law. During the day the sun is up, during the night the moon is out. It's simply what a universal law is. If you were to drop a rock off the top of a roof of a building, the universal law of gravity is going to pull that rock to the ground. And it doesn't matter where you are. So an easy way to identify and understand a universal law is that it doesn't matter who, when, where, the results are always going to be the same. So it doesn't matter what country we stand in. It doesn't matter what rooftop we stand on. It doesn't matter what time of the day. If we drop a rock, it's going to fall to the ground. So that is a universal law, the universal law of gravity. So in universal law, we either obey the law or we don't. And if you obey the law, you know what the outcome is going to be. If you don't obey the law, you know what the outcome is going to be. So for example, as long as we follow the laws of the universe and gravity in terms of flying, we can load up an airplane with, lots of people and lots of luggage, and we can fly from one destination to another. But we can only do that flight if we are following the laws of gravity. The minute we break the laws of gravity, that airplane is going to come down. So we know if we follow the law, we will fly safely from one destination to another. And that if we break that law, we won't make it from one destination to another. So the question becomes, if we understand what universal law is, and if we follow universal law, and the law is going to give us consistent results in our lives, why is it that we do not? Why don't we follow universal laws that we can have predictability and stability in our lives on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to going with concepts that give us inconsistency results that result in a roller coaster ride as opposed to the wave of life? So now that you know a little bit about universal law and it's not this mysterious thing, let's talk about two powers of the universe. And someone's probably thinking about right now, why are we talking about this and what does this have to do with becoming a leader? And I assure you, I will tie it to the hard skills of becoming a leader. So there are two powers in the universe. There's positive and there is negative. The energy so it's positive energy and it's negative energy. So if we know that those two things exist within the universe because we have electricity, and there's a negative and a positive in order to make the electricity work. So everything in life has a positive and a negative result to it. And we're going to tie that into leadership as well. So now you know what the two powers are. Now you know how to start. We're going to talk about how to make those decisions and how to use those two powers. So the next thing that becomes extremely important is understanding one's values. And if we went through them, that would be, spirituality, health, family, career, finances, community, and education. So we all have those things within our lives. There's no difference from one country to the next. We all have values. And the difference or the challenge comes when we talk about how we are going to prioritize those values. That's where the disagreements come in. So these are things that you have to get very clear on in understanding what your values are, what it is that you believe in. So, for example, if I want to understand someone's values, and here's something that I suggest to you. I don't know if anyone has heard the saying, action speaks louder than words. Pay attention to the actions, not necessarily what someone is saying to you. So if you really want to know where somebody's values are or where their belief system lies, follow the money and follow time. Look at where they spend their money and how they use their time. And that will tell you what they believe in and what is of importance to them. So once you have a handle on that value system, then you talk about being able to make decisions. And we all make decisions every day, all day long. Whether we're making personal decisions, whether we're making decisions, within the corporate setting, if we're in social outings, we're constantly making decisions all day long. But if we were to stop people at random and ask the question, what are the steps in making a decision? Most people can't tell you. So there are a lot of leaders out there that are making decisions about our lives, whether they're politicians or business people, et cetera. They're making decisions about how we live our lives, how our finances are going to be handled, whether we're paying taxes, whatever the case may be. And if we ask them, how do they go about making decisions? Most of them will not be able to tell you the process of decision making. So if you don't use the formula, which is a mathematic formula, in making decisions, you're going to get some inconsistency in the results of those decisions that you're making on a day-to-day basis. And when you get that inconsistency in those decisions, that's going to have direct impact on people's lives. And sometimes it'll be good and sometimes not so good. So the first thing in that decision-making process, the steps are, before I tell you the steps, most people, when you tell them what your problem is, they don't hear what the problem is. They think they know what the answer is, and they start giving you the answer to what they heard, what they think they heard, or what they wanted to hear, but not necessarily what your problem is. So in decision making, you want to be able to identify or define what the real problem is before you start taking any action. Then you want to brainstorm what are the possible solutions. And once you come up with all your possible solutions, you want to figure out positives and negative, which we talked about the two energies before. If we take a course of action, what's the positive and what's the negative results from each possible solution we came up with? Then we actually need to choose a solution out of the 3 or 4 or whatever the number of possible solutions we come up. We actually have to choose one, which means taking action. And once we choose it, then we got to put the action behind it by actually implementing. And then that's going to tell us whether or not we have gone through the correct 5 steps and have come up with the correct answer. The 6th step is to evaluate. And as we evaluate, we say, did we follow steps 1 through 5 and did it resolve the problem, or do we have to go back to step 2, which was another possible solution? And then step 7 is repeating step 2 through 6 until you get the right answer. So once you understand that decision process and you're using it, you will start to get consistency in the results that you're looking for in terms of solutions to problems. Then the last area that I want to talk about in this soft skill area is that when we reduce life to its simplest form, it comes down to 3 things. It comes down to people. You're going to have to deal with other people. There's roughly 7 billion people on the planet. You can't get through life without interacting with people. So going back to my earlier statement about negative and positive, the 2 powers of the universe, you're going to choose whether you're going to have positive relationships or you're going to have negative relationships with people. But there's no way that you will get through life without having to deal with people. The second thing is agreements. You will not get through life without making agreements with people. And you will either make verbal agreements with them or you make written agreements with them. And if you don't honor, again, positive and negative, if you don't honor the agreements that you make, there are negative consequences to that. If you're positive, if you honor those agreements, there are positive results that come from that. And then the third area is finances or financials. If you do the right things by people as you interact with them, let's do the positive side of this first. As you interact with people and you make commitments to people and you follow through on those commitments / agreements with people, your finances will be fine. If we take the negative approach and you're dealing with people and you're being negative with people, you're not honoring those agreements and those commitments with those people, your finances will be a mess. And life won't be so pleasant. So these are the soft skill areas now that I want to carry over as we now talk about becoming a leader in the hard skills area. So hopefully that little bit of information that I've shared with you will give you some different insight and perspective as we start to go through the hard skills of becoming a leader. So the first question that I have for people when they tell me, that they want to be a leader, my question is why? What is your big why? What is driving you to lead other people? So for me, I was not, there are different personality types out there, and which we can talk about a little later on. But I am not an in-your-face type of person, and I'm more of a behind-the-scenes. Let's look at what we got to get done, and let's get the work done. But I have become a leader because I would sit and I would watch and I would listen to leaders or people that were in leadership positions that weren't treating people well. They weren't treating them well, or they weren't treating me well. And so at that point, it's either keep quiet and put up with it, or step up and do something about it. So in my case, I had to step up and do something about it. That's what moved me into leadership. That was my big why. But in terms of what I do in life coaching and helping people, my big why is driven from a spiritual place. Remember, we talked about values, and I'm very clear that spirituality is my highest and most important value. So, as David shared with you, I was born and raised in the ghettos of Baltimore City, in the USA. And it was rough. It was rough. And I remember as a kid making the commitment and making the promise to God that if you could see any way to get me out of this misery that I was living in, and if you would be graceful enough to give me wealth, education, and wealth, I promise that I will help other people. So here we are. I'm 59 years old. I'll be 60 next year. I was fortunate enough to get out of poverty in my mid 20s and became wealthy in my 30s and have lived well thanks to the grace of God. So my big why in helping young people, helping people of color, helping women is that I now owe a debt to God to give back what has been given to me to others. So I go back to the question of why is it that you want to be a leader? And understand the difference between being a leader is different than being a boss and being a manager. I have worked for a number of bosses. And so let me share what the difference is. A boss is someone who's standing around telling you what to do. And I'm sure all of us have experienced that at some point in our lives. A manager is one that stands over and micromanages you and tell you step 1, step 2, step 3. They micromanage. A leader is one who sets parameters. They share the goals and set parameters to say we need to get from A to B, and take your skill set that we have hired you for or that you bring to the table as part of an organization. Now that you understand where we're going and what the parameters are, do what you need to do to get us there. The boss is going to be over top of you constantly in your face, telling you do this, do that, do the other. The manager's going to be showing you step by step, do this, then talk to me. Do that, do it this way, then talk to me. The leader's going to give you your independence and say, work within these parameters and bring about the results that we're looking for. So you need to understand the difference between a boss, a manager, and a leader, especially if your goal is to become a leader. There's a lot of work that comes with that. So some people think that just because someone has a title or has been given a position, that they are the leader. So officially within that organization or within that particular environment, they may be the official leader, but then there's something called a natural leader. And I'm sure all of us have experienced this at some point. The person who we naturally go to, or who the masses naturally go to, may not be the official leader. So you can become a leader in title. You can become a leader because someone, an organization has made you a leader, but you may not be the natural leader for the environment in which you're in. And that's one of the things that you need to be aware of in this process. So going back to my college days, I was in the ROTC, military ROTC, and part of going through ROTC, which is the Army, going through the Army military, you have to train under enlisted people. In college, you're being groomed to be officers. So the people who are training you, the drill sergeants, and they know that they're going to have to train you, and that one day they're going to have to turn around and salute you. So they want to make sure that you know everything that you need to know if you're going to become that leader. So officially, because you graduate ROTC or you move into active duty, you become first lieutenant. And as an officer, people have to listen to you and take direction and guidance, et cetera, because you're a military officer. But that does not mean that you have the answers. That doesn't mean that you know what you need to know. It means that you're in that position. And the same thing applies with college degrees. There are a lot of people out there that have college degrees, they have titles, and they think they're the cat's meow. It's just a title. It's just a degree. And that degree says that you had the discipline to make it through whatever program. The natural leader doesn't necessarily have to have the degree or the certification or the official title, but because of innate abilities, people will still turn to them for guidance and direction. So once you figure out what your big why is, you need to figure out if you're going to be the official leader or if you're going to be the natural leader. And in order to do that, you have to know who you are. And that's not telling someone a story of who you want to be or who you want them to think you are. You need to truly know who you are as a person. So tying back to the soft skills that we talked about, you have to really understand your values. You need to understand what it is that you believe. And your beliefs need to be congruent with the words that come out of your mouth. So the words and the actions have to align with each other. So once you truly understand who you are, and it's an ongoing process because we're constantly evolving. Once you understand who you are, you're going to have to learn who your followers are. And there are a lot of tools out there that can help you through that. You know, there's a lot of training and reading that you can do. Um, but there's some good tools out there. There's DISC that's out there, profiles. There's the 4 Tendencies quiz, Strength Finders 2. One of the most popular ones is Myers-Briggs, Winslow. But there's a number of tools out there for you to learn who you are and to learn who other people are so that you can interact, one, understand your own behavior, but also understand how to interact and how to communicate with other people. And remember, as a leader, I said, when we go back to the soft skills, you have to, as a leader, you're going to have to deal with people, whether they're your peers or whether they are your followers. You're going to have to deal with people, and you're going to have to understand those people. And in dealing with those people, you're going to have to make agreements with them. And if you honor those agreements, people will trust and respect you. If you don't honor those agreements, people will let you know. And in those agreements, like I said, that determines your financial situation, whether it's as a leader, it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. So once you decide that, and we go back to positive, negative energies, the 2 forces of the universe, it now comes down to what type of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be a positive leader or do you want to be a negative leader? And no one really sets out, or I should say very few people set out to say, I'm going to become a negative leader. But there are a lot of negative people out there, right? So let's talk about the good leader. Positive leaders, the good leaders or best leaders are good followers. In order to lead, you need to know how to follow. And most good leaders, most are reluctant. They do it because there is a need. There's something compelling them to do it. They're not doing it just because they want to be in charge and controlling and telling other people what to do. So in order to be a good follower, and being a good follower doesn't mean that you're going to be a yes person. Being a good follower means that you keep your ego in check. It's not about you. You establish strong credibility with your leadership and with your team members, and that you are truly committed to whatever purpose it is that you have. You focus in on the effects of maximum input. You're looking to get maximum results for whatever it is that you're working on. And most importantly, good followers support other people, right? So in order to be that good leader, you have to be a good follower. Because if you're a good follower and you move into leadership role, now you know how to lead people that are following you. So then, there's the flip side of the coin. But you know what? Before we get to the flip side of the coin, so I tell you, in order to be a good leader, you choose to be a good leader, you be a good follower. But let's talk about the traits that go with being a good leader. So most good leaders, new age leaders, they are transparent in their actions. They share the bigger picture with the team. And they give the team independence to get to the goal. So good leaders empower others. They really listen to what other people have to say. They delegate. They don't micromanage. They take ownership and responsibility for whatever area they're in charge of. Good leaders are not afraid to have fun. You don't have to be stuffy to be a good leader. Good leaders tend to love what they do and encourage other people to love what they do as well. You, as a good leader, you want to help others. You want to make connections. You want to provide feedback to those that are supporting you. And you want to be a good resource for folks. So there is a lot of hard work that goes into becoming a good leader. You don't just say, I'm going to become a good leader. And you can't just say, I'm a good leader. The way you find out is if you're a good leader is from the feedback from the people that support you, because they will tell you if there is the correct environment for them to be able to give you feedback. They will tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And if the environment does not exist for them to give you feedback without retaliation, then you know you're not doing good. Because then you would have to ask the question, why is it that I don't want to hear back from people? Why is it that I don't want their feedback? Is it because I don't want to hear what they have to say and I don't want to have to face it? Okay. So before I get into some of the bad leader stuff, let's talk a little bit about in choosing to become a leader. There are 4 things that will happen. So as a leader, you have to be prepared to understand that there are going to be a lot of people that will support whatever it is that you're trying to do. However, there's going to be on the negative side, because the support is the positive. On the negative side, there are going to be people going to fight against whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And depending on what you're leading and who you're leading, there will be people who will physically try to hurt you. And if we look at the racial unjust behavior that's happening around the world, the people who are leading those different movements that are taking folks out to the streets and protesting and conveying their dissatisfaction with the system and the status quo, there are people out there that will hurt them. And given the right situation, there will be people out there that will try to kill them. So as you move into leadership, if that's the road that you choose to take, just understand that everybody is not there to support you. And that's where your discernment has to come in so that you know who is around you. So that's why, again, you have to know who you are. You have to understand who other people are, who's around you, what's in your best interest, and what is people's agendas that's around you. So as we move from that and you have those 4 things to accept as becoming a leader, let's now talk a bit about the bad leaders that are out there. So we call them sometimes the old school leaders. And those old school leaders are basically do what I say, They only let you know, limited information about whatever it is that the goal is. It's on a need to know basis. They're very protective of information because they don't want you to move into their position. So bad leaders tend to take leadership because they want money, power, and prestige. So if money, power, and prestige is your big why, then maybe you might want to rethink why you're going into leadership. That's the negative side of the coin. The behaviors that go with that, with the bad leadership, is they're passive aggressive people for the most part. They know it all. They micromanage. They have very poor listening skills. They hear what they want to hear. They're narcissistic. They make everything about them. And basically the attitude is things are my way or the highway. And I'm sure that we have all dealt with people who think and behave that way. So here is what happens when you move into leadership. Leadership usually pays big salaries, nice benefits, and flexible schedules. And the reason for that is because the reward for solving a problem is a bigger problem. So if you solve a small problem, or you solve several small problems, someone usually within the organization or the corporation go, hey, this person is good at solving problems. Let's move them into a supervisory position. And when they move you into that supervisory position, the problems are bigger than if you were just the average employee that comes in on an hourly rate basis to do the job. And if you do well at that supervisor's position, solving those problems, they give you a raise, but the reward really is bigger problems. And if you're able to solve those, they move you from manager into, officer positions or senior leadership. But as you move up the food chain, the problem gets bigger. And as you can solve them, you get bigger problems. And like I said, the pay gets bigger, the benefits gets bigger, your salary, your flexibility of your schedule gets bigger. You can, come and kind of go as you please. Again, and that depends on what kind of leader you work for, or whether you work for a boss or a manager. So the question that becomes there is, who's more important, the follower or the leader? The answer is they are both equally important. As a leader, it's a title. It's a privilege that has been given to you. It's because you're capable of resolving problems. But you as a leader cannot lead if there is no one to follow. And if you are a follower, there's no marching order if there's no leadership that's given any guidance and direction of where we're going and how we're going to get there. So both are equally important, and both should be supportive of each other in terms of getting to the end goal. So hopefully you can see how to. So let me just take these last couple minutes and tie over the soft skills to the hard skills. So we go what's your big why? The big why, again, tying it back to the soft skills, is you got to figure out why you're on this planet. and what your contributions are to the world. And once you figure that out, then you can decide if you're going to become a leader. And then if you're going to become a leader, what type of leader are you going to become? Whether it's going to be a positive or a negative leader. And both exist, but you have to choose. So in order to understand who you are and who others are, you have to understand the value system of the human race. And when you understand that value system, then you need to understand your priorities, and then you have to understand other people's priorities, because they're not necessarily going to line up with yours, but because they are people and because they are following you, you're going to have to be able to be flexible and nimble enough to understand their value system, to be able to communicate with them in order to drive to the results that you're trying to get to get the group to as a leader. And then the decision making, everything about being a leader is about decision making. The worst thing that you can do is be a leader that don't make decisions. You have to make decisions as a leader. You can't be indecisive. Sometimes you're going to be wrong, and sometimes you're going to be right. But if you're a good leader, you will consult with the people that support you, with other leaders, and with your supporters, and the probability of you making the wrong decision goes way down, because it becomes a collective decision, and people will work and support you in getting there. If people can see the end result, if people understand what the vision is, if they understand what the goal is, and they are in agreement to getting the group there or getting the cause there, they will follow, you will lead, and you will get there. But you have to make the hard decisions that come with that. And again, the people, agreements, and finances are the fundamentals for everything. As a leader, you're gonna have to, if you're leading people, you got to understand who you're leading. You got to know how people think, how people feel, how people react. Your investment of your skill set is learning how to be of service to the people in which you lead. We are here to serve, not to dictate and tell people what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. We are here as leaders, as good leaders, to be of service to them. So as we make our agreements with them, like I said, the trust goes up, frequency of interaction. The more interaction you have, the more you honor your commitments and agreement, the more people trust you. The less you do that, the less people trust you. So the question remains now, do you want to become a leader? And if so, what type of leader do you want to be? A good leader or a bad leader? And then once you decide that, we can take it from there. So I'm gonna keep quiet and turn it back over to David, and then answer any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nat. Well, as we all know that the leadership as a topic is not something you can cover everything in just one webinar. So likely we'll be inviting him back in no distance time to finish up this team. But at this juncture, I don't know if you have any question. If there's anyone that has a question, I prefer you write it down or you raise your hand, then we can unmute you, then you ask your question. So this moment is a moment of asking questions. Moreover, if you're a student, don't have it at the back of your mind, like, what is it? Is it talking about, is it say I'm going to be a leader, a government politician, or no? That's not what it's talking about. Leadership in every domain. So if you're able to amass, to have leadership values, it will even help you to get a job, because one of the criteria, the skills that most employers demand is leadership value. Leadership is all about taking responsibility in any situation you find yourself. So maybe you are here, you are into business, and you know, Dr. Nat is a businessman, he's into real estate, and you have this time to ask him all the questions you can. So at this moment, if you have any question, I would like you to raise your hand and ask him the question. So as you're waiting for your question, I have this to present to you. If you are in Calgary, do you live in Calgary or East Environ? Volunteer with us. So we'll be having our School for All program in September. So if you're in Calgary, make sure you follow, you send us message on one of our social media platform. And also I encourage everyone here to follow us on our social media platform. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter for now, so that you can be getting our information from time to time, because we have other programs that will be coming up soon. And it will be better if you you follow us all the time to know what is happening. So I don't know whether we have anyone with question.
I think Jonathan has a question. He's got his hand raised.
Okay. My team, can we unmute him? Hello, who is the person that has a question?
Jonathan Gates.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is Jonathan. Please, in course of your presentation, you made mention of a lot of facts, and I just want to ask a very quick question. We know that from what we've learned, that leadership is just reserved for a few people, and just a few people that can lead the mass. When you talk about the bear trade theory, the leadership by providence, they all tell you that leadership is reserved for some few people, and if you don't find yourself in that category, you cannot lead. I just want to have your take on that. Do you believe that leadership is reserved for just some few people, or anyone that wishes to be a leader, or anybody at all can rise to the position of leadership? Thank you.
Okay. So
it's 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So my opinion on that is that there are born leaders, naturally born leaders. And then there are people who choose to become leaders. So I think anyone, if they really want to become a leader, that they can develop the skill set that's necessary to become a leader. It's just having access to information and the right support system and education to get you up to speed in the area of becoming a leader. So I think anyone can do it if that's what they truly desire to do.
Do you have any other person with question? Okay, we have a question here. What criteria can we look up to in making good decisions?
What criteria?
Yeah, what are the criteria can we look up to in making good decisions?
Well, I mean, everybody knows fundamentally, good versus bad, right? We all know good versus bad. So, I mean, if you want the list of items, you can just Google, what is the criteria for being a good manager, or what is the criteria for being a good leader, and it'll give you the characteristics, some of which I've shared with you today. But the goodness is really in the spirit of who you are, knowing right from wrong. Leaders do the right thing. No matter how hard it is, they do the right thing. So you're going to need to tap into your spirituality. You're going to need to tap into how your humanity, in terms of how you're interacting and how you're treating other people. You need to make sure that as you interact, that you're treating everyone with dignity and respect. but all that information is easily available on Google. If anybody has any questions that they or want to have any offline conversations, they can feel free to email me, and you can share with everyone my email address, David.
Okay. All right. Okay. If you have any question, as he said, you are free to maybe write the questions here. Then we can email him the questions, and I promise I'll get the answers to you directly. So
the other thing, and I don't want to mess up your forum, David, but if people have questions just in general about me or my life, or how I accomplish certain things, I'll be glad to answer that as well.
Okay. So, and also you can follow him on Instagram. Can you write your Instagram account on the page here on Instagram?
Yeah, you can put it up. Nathaniel X Ross.
Okay, so we can also follow him on Instagram,
Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And while you're doing that, I think Jonathan has another question.
Please, just a quick one. As young men trying to build something for themselves, we are trying to come up with things for ourselves, trying to start businesses, and trying to work in teams, and make sure that whatever vision we have is accomplished. I want you to tell me one advice you would give young men that in the journey of entrepreneurship, or whatever purpose or whatever vision they have for their lives in that journey. What are some of the key things they should consider in that journey? Thank you.
So Jonathan, let me make sure I understand your question. That is figuring out what should you do in order to figure out which direction you want to move in?
Yes, please.
Okay. So here's a piece of advice I have for everyone. Look, build your network. Put people in your network that have done whatever it is that you want to do, wherever it is you're trying to go. So if you're trying to be a successful business person, or if you're trying to be a successful politician, whatever it is you're trying to do, you need to get in an environment with those types of people. Because if you can get into that environment, they will elevate you to where it is that you're trying to go. Remember, I said you can't do anything without other people. So if you're around people, if you want to be a good business person, and you start associating and hanging out with business people, even if you're the low level person in the group, you're going to be hearing things and you're going to be learning things just from being in proximity to them. And then they're going to teach you things that's going to elevate your game, because they're going to give you information and they're going to give you access that otherwise you wouldn't have just within your own natural network. So you got to get outside of your comfort zone and find the group that you want to get into that's already done what it is you want to do, and learn from them. So I did a video not too long ago on masters. One of the things if I was younger, and if I had to tell my younger self something, and that video I did was, I would find someone who has mastered whatever it is that I want to do, and I would stay stuck on that person so that I could learn any and everything that I need to learn in order to get to where I'm trying to get to. So I'm going to say this, and I hope it doesn't come across as arrogant, and I hope it doesn't hurt anyone's feelings. The reason that we don't make it sometimes is because we put our own barriers up and we sabotage. We sabotage ourselves. So I'm here today, and David is saying, hey, we got someone, all you got to do is ask the question. They will give you the advice. And if you don't, the chat box should fill up with questions. The raised hand should be going up left and right, because this doesn't cost you anything. And you should be extracting every piece of knowledge that you can get out of me while I'm on this call. That's how you get ahead. That's how you move forward in whatever direction it is that you're trying to move forward in. And this group is bringing leaders to you that is giving you access that will answer questions for you that you should be preparing for in advance, and have tough questions for them to get some of the answers that's going to move you to where it is that you want to move to. So, Jonathan, does that answer your question?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do we still have any other question? And again, you know, as I said before, that leader, one of the characteristics of a leader is responsibility. You know, when you start blaming others for errors, for mistakes, or when you start trying to look for answer to justify yourself, why things are not moving the way it should be, then you're not showing a good one of the key leadership qualities. So you have to take action. You need to take responsibility. You need to be accountable for your action. So that's what leadership is all about: taking responsibility, knowing that I have to do something. I'm not going to leave the situation the way I see. I have to do something. So I don't know whether we still have any other question.
I think it's Raina. I hope I pronounced that right.
Okay, can I see the question?
She's got her hand raised.
Okay, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, hello everyone. I am really so honored to be here and to hear you. Honestly, really, even just sentence which you say that you have to put people in your network, which done what you really wanted to do. It's I don't know. I will even print it in a paper and put it in my room. It's yeah, it's just such amazing advice actually. But you mentioned that if you have to know your values, and if this values is just a money and the prestige, this means that you will be a bad leader. And I think this is so tight judgment for people, especially for us as a youth, because simply you cannot come and say to be a leader you do have to wait for charity or to wait for someone to support you. So I just need you to clarify why you mentioned that if it's just a money and prestige, it's not something which you have to. It's not something supposed to drive you. Do you get me?
No. Can you say that differently to me, please? Can you ask that differently?
Yeah, what I mean, you mentioned that you have to know your values, and these values not supposed to be money or prestige. If you need to be a leader just to have more money, or to be a wealthy man, or to be a prestigious one in your community, this thing is not good to have it in the table to come and say I need to be a leader for this. So I just don't really see that this is um, something which really make it as a thing when you judge someone. What I mean that you're supposed to have a drive to be a wealthy and to be a prestigious. So you cannot come and say you cannot be those. You cannot really have those drivers and be a leader.
No,
Do you get?
I think I understand your question, and so let me give you a point of clarification. I'm not saying that you can't have money, prestige, and power as a leader. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if that is the only reason that you're becoming a leader, you need to ask yourself, why am I doing this? If you get out and you lead, and you're leading to really help people, if you're leading to solve problems, or to deal with the cause, the money will follow. So if you look at, I don't know if everybody's heard Procter and Gamble, which is a big company, the global company that's out there. You find a problem, you find an answer to the problem, you get a bigger problem, but you also get money. And when you get that money, you get prestige. So I'm not saying that if you become a leader that you can't have money and prestige. I have money. I have prestige. All I'm saying is that my intent wasn't, I want to go out and the only reason that I want to lead is so that I can get money and be in charge of other people. That's the distinction that I'm making. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, okay, merci.
We can only take one more question because of our time. So if you have, we have like 2 minutes to close up. So we can only take one more question. So do we have any other question?
Isaac Sekiranda has.
Okay.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, Isaac, how are you? Isaac?
Thanks for the information. So my question was, among the characteristics of a good leader was listed listening to others. Yeah, and I agree with that to a big percentage, that we should listen to others, since being a leader doesn't necessarily mean that you know it all. Yes, people's advice may be necessary, but now the problem is that at times there's too much advice, there's too much information coming in from different sides, which may contradict. So you may have advice from different sides, you may have different ideas that are running towards opposite directions. So my question is, at some point, doesn't that become all too confusing, and then you just have to ignore all that and just follow your intuition?
It comes down to your intuition and advice from others. So if you open up and you take advice from any and everybody, you're going to drive yourself absolutely crazy. That's why it's extremely important to put your network in place, or to belong to a network of people that are like-minded in terms of thinking and direction that you're moving in, but people who also have different opinions than you do, so that you can have those honest conversations and get honest feedback. But if you're asking the world and you're trying to build a consensus, there's 7 billion people on the planet and everybody's got a different opinion. So you don't want to listen to any and everybody. You want to be selecting who you listen to within your network, but just make sure that your network is diversified. That's going to give you different ideas and thoughts and opinions. Isaac, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Jonathan KK again. So he's asking, what is the most contributing factor to your success? He's asking you, Dr. Nat. What is your most contributing factor to your success?
For me personally?
Yes.
My success is through the grace of God.
Okay.
That's it in a nutshell. I mean, I put a lot of hard work in order to get to where I am and to be successful.
Okay.
But a lot has to do with me, my prayers and belief.
Okay. Okay, said, please, I would like to know if there is any decision you have taken during your entrepreneurial journey that you wish you shouldn't have taken. Any positions? Any decision like you took during your entrepreneurial journey, maybe as a youth, maybe as most of us now, maybe you think right now you're thinking, you wish like I would have taken that decision.
If I wish I had not made certain decisions, any regrets that I might have?
Yes, you got it exactly.
You know what? There used to be a time where I would be able to pinpoint and say to you, I wish I hadn't done this, or I regret that I did this. But now at this particular stage in my life, I am so appreciative of everything that I did. Even the stuff that the consequences weren't good, which we would label as bad stuff. If I didn't do them and I didn't learn the lessons that I needed to learn from it, I wouldn't be who I am today. Okay. So, you know, I'm fortunate and appreciative that I made those mistakes along the way, because they helped me become a better person.
Okay. Well, it's true. You know, like if I should relate to what the Jonathan's question, you know, some people used to ask, what is your secret of success? Like a true successful person doesn't know his secret. Because I think for me, I would say that you keep being focused, keep working hard, keep doing the things that you know that is right. So then if you are focused, you keep working hard. Like a journey of 1,000 miles, start with a step. There's no particular formula. So it can be different routes, but we will all get there. And also for decisions, sometimes we can encounter a lot of problems and we think this is a wrong decision, or I did something wrong, or maybe the consequence is bad. Well, sometimes it's actually a test of time, which you overcome, or which you come to realize that this is an important time for me to learn. I wouldn't have become a better person assuming I didn't took this wrong decision, or the decision as it may be. So we have barely a minute to go. Well, I thank each and every one of you to be here today. And most importantly, I would like to invite each and every one of you to join us on our social media platform. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We have other information. We have other programs coming up. And if you want more information, you can follow Dr. Nat on his social media. He's always here to help. He's always here to answer your questions. So thank you. Expect another educational series next month. And in August, we'll be having we'll be having educational, in September, sorry, it's our educational month, which will be inviting a lot of speakers. It's going to be on a talk, not on Zoom. It's going to be online directly. And I would like to prepare ahead. Always prepare your question in advance once our topic is out before the date of the event. I don't know, Mr. Na, do you have anything to say to us? Finally?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I just want to thank you guys I want to first thank the leadership team for the work that you guys are doing. It's something that is essential and it's necessary in the world. And I think that you have a great cause in it. You're going to be taking people in a very positive direction that's going to bring about needed change in the world. And then I want to thank everybody else that's, you know, out there on Facebook or in the chat or on Zoom. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this time with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So people are sending you thank you message. Thank you, Nathaniel. Rose, this session has been so insightful. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.